So here we are, we're doing it. This is gonna be a Helluva Boss. We're gonna go a little bit into Stolas, his childhood, and how he was parented. Pretty much, this is gonna be an episode of Raised by Narcissists. And we'll go through some of the effects that can happen if you yourself or you know someone that was raised by narcissists. And sometimes you might end up more like Stolas, or you might actually end up being more like your narcissistic parent. So a little bit of this will also be a cautionary tale. So here we go. Hopefully people will enjoy my entry into Helluva Boss.
My birthday! My birthday! It's my birthday! Yay! Birthday! Birthday! Woohoo! Birthday time!
Calm yourself, young prince.
I love that exuberance, how we have, especially when we were children, just open to everything in life. How he's kind of getting his head massaged to help him stay calm, but you can tell that this is a very special day to him, as it is for many of us on our birthday, when we get time and attention and get treated like we're special.
But Father told me today is the day I am old enough to know my purpose and responsibilities.
He's expected to behave a certain way. And what we often were taught is that children should act like little tiny adults, should be calm, shouldn't show much emotion. And that's a lot of pressure on children. This is also a really large thing when you're raised by someone that has narcissistic traits or is narcissistic themselves, because that emotion that you're sharing is often too much for the other person to handle. Emotions, one, are contagious, and two, the other person then has to manage these types of emotions, and people that have narcissistic traits don't want to have to manage anyone else and their time because they're so self-absorbed in what they're doing and the things that they care about. So for Stolas, he has two sets of responsibilities upon him. One is the neglectful narcissistic parent, and two is this huge heavy weight of having to be a family of royalty.
Of course, I'm sure it will be wonderful.
So I'm gonna go back to the pictures are just adorable, because you see all of these pictures of Stolas' childhood, but you see the one, like if you haven't noticed it, the one of the baby just being born, because baby birds are absolutely atrociously scary looking, and so it's just kind of hilarious to me. Because at first I was like, what in the world is that abomination photo of? I'm like, oh yeah, baby birds. They really do kind of look like that.
Ah, there is my little, which son is this one? There's so many.
Stolas, Your Highness.
Stolas!
And I feel so sad for Stolas that, you know, he's so excited. He talks about his father in this way, larger than life, which often for us, that's the way that we see our parents, especially when we're young. They are our beginning and our end. To not even be remembered, to have his name out of 11 to kind of be forgotten, a lot of kids, even if they're in families of very few children, or even if you're the only child, often do feel that way, that they're kind of alone or forgotten, or they have to live up to these expectations in order to be seen, which often has the effect of making you have to try to overachieve, or always feeling like in order to be noticed or to be good enough or to be a part of something, you have to do something. Just being isn't enough. And so you can end up with these caretaking traits or these overachieving traits, because in order to be even good enough, even to be remembered, you have to rise above. And often these traits continue with you into adulthood. So into your working life, into your relationships, into the people around you. You're constantly worried about being abandoned, being forgotten, or not being good enough.
Are you ready to know what you will be meant to do to serve hell?
Yes, Father.
You will be entrusted with the study of the earth's skies, the stars, the prophecies they hold, all that stuff, and you will grow to be a mighty prince of hell with your own legions to lead and pass on your knowledge to.
And this is a lot of stuff for one person to take. You can see that Stolas is really excited. And for Stolas, he's kind of always that keen or excited for many different things. It's a lot to unload on someone in one big package. What I would say for most parents is, especially if you have these grand expectations, which often happens with parents, but definitely with narcissistic parents, is that your job is to fulfill their goals. You are an extension of them. And so they already have a role for you to ingratiate or make better or make more powerful or continue what are the hopes and dreams of themselves. And that can often cause a lot of negative effects. When you feel that your wants and your needs don't really matter, it can make you feel really resentful. But because you also don't feel like you have a right to your own feelings, then that can cause all of this anxiety or built up hurt and pain. You learn to end up packaging your emotions because you don't really feel like you have a right to even share them. And for some people, they can actually cut out full emotions from them, no longer be able to even express anger or sadness. And that can have a lot of really strong pervasive problems, especially in later relationships.
I will do my best, Father.
Wonderful. Also, son, you are destined to sire a precautionary addition to the Goetia family, so you are now engaged. Congratulations. Oh, that's an ugly noise, son. Here, how about you cease this crying?
And that dismissing of feelings that stop this is too much, is also really very common. And then you end up kind of keeping all of your emotions in because we learn first about the world through how our parental figures treat us. So he's learning that one is this is to be dismissed. My feelings, the things that I care about are to be dismissed, and that I'm too much. And a lot of people end up feeling like they're taking up too much space, even when they're just taking up a normal amount of space.
That usually works. Oh, would you like it if I took you to the circus in town? Children enjoy the circus, right? Would that distract you enough from your non-negotiable future marriage?
And that's the thing, that gifts or things that are given are all manipulation tactics, or often manipulation tactics, that they're there with strings attached. I'm going to give you something so that you have to give me something after, and I'll make you feel guilty or obligated, manipulated into doing my will. And then what happens is that in later relationships, you are always questioning when someone does something nice for you, because no one could just do this from the goodness of their own heart. You're always thinking in the back of your head, what is their plan? How could I be trapped? How could I be stuck? And so you can sometimes end up having these really strong negative reactions when someone does something nice for you, or you can't even take a compliment because you're always waiting for the knife behind their back. And that can make even natural, normal relationships be very stressful because you never feel at ease. You never feel safe.
Is there a spot that is close to the front, but also far enough that I don't have to smell the poor?
It also shows that elitism when you look at other people as less than you and not really understand the lack of empathy that Stolas' father has for everything around him. Plus, you're in a mirror. You can't smell anything anyways, I don't know, maybe a special mirror. He's such an absent father that even this, when he's taking his child to the circus, he's not even there. He's there through a secondary source. I have so many people that talk to me about feeling invisible even when their parent is there. It's not really about the amount of time that you spend with someone, but the quality of the time that you spend with them. If someone is always on their phone, reading the newspaper, playing a game, instead of actually being with you, it doesn't really feel like that time is as meaningful, that you actually matter. To be able to spend a moment or time with someone where you're actually listening, validating, caring about what they're saying and doing, that's what makes us feel heard, feel seen, feel important. And Stolas is definitely lacking in a lot of that. And you see that Stolas doesn't really care about this. You see that this is something that his father's enjoying, not him. So he chose an activity that has to do more with himself than with Stolas. And that's another thing that I have a lot of people that were raised with people with narcissistic traits have a lot of resentment for, that even the moment their parental figure spent with them, that it wasn't really about them either. It was always about the parent, something that they kind of enjoyed. They couldn't even give that little bit of attention to them. They might not even know what they enjoy. They've given up so much of what they do for other people. They may not even know what kind of pizza or what kind of food they enjoy eating, what colors, what movies, because everything they do is about someone else. Like, you see that he doesn't even notice. He's not even paying attention. This was supposed to be to help make him feel better. He's not even paying attention that Stolas isn't enjoying this. He doesn't really care. So you can end up with the reverse effect as well, that no matter how much attention someone gets, you always feel empty because it's not really about the person that you're with right now. It's about your parental figure. And that's where therapy can come in and be really helpful, where it can actually heal this wound. So you're not an endless pit of need for someone else to be there, that you can fill it yourself. Because no one can always be there for you. You have to be there for yourself also, and end up going through the wounds that you've had that someone else has created. We often pick people to try to fill that wound, but in the end, it's one of these things that not even that parental figure can fill it anymore, and be able to kind of repair all of those issues, all of those wounds within yourself, so that you don't end up repeatedly causing trauma into your next relationship. And when I say relationship, it doesn't even have to be a relationship with a loved one. It can be friend relationships, it can be work relationships, and the relationship that you have with yourself.
Everyone's favorite.
Self-harm actually is very common with people that feel like they can't share their emotions with others. They often deal with it by self-harming themselves. They find that as a way of actually soothing, and it can be headbanging, it could be cutting, it could be pulling out your hair, it could be substance abuse. All of these ways are often ways of dealing with negative emotions that you don't feel like or don't understand or can't cope with. And these maladaptive things are those first signs that I'm not able to actually cope with what's happening in my life. But you can tell that no one's really reacting to it either. He's kind of left there, that feeling of helplessness that doesn't really matter what he does. No one's really paying attention. You often have that want that someone will see me and understand my hurt.
I liked his broken horse stroke. It was funny. Their legs do stop working when they eat too much sugar. It's called Laminitis.
Maybe like you, I was like, oh, how nice. The father's finally paying attention to him and realizing something about him, that this is something that he actually enjoys. But of course, he's going to use this to his own advantage, not really because he cares about his child.
So, that little clown that you have, my son really enjoyed that one. I was wondering if I could buy him.
Buy him?
Purchase him. My son doesn't have any friends, you see.
That's so horrible, that thought of what happens to people when they're raised in isolation and the only people that are around them are other adults. Often they become really good with dealing with adults, and you can hear that Stolas talks and speaks very adult-like, but they don't understand that children have different rules, and there's bugging and there's teasing in the way that they interact. And so being raised in isolation actually causes a huge disjoint in how do you handle and cope with other children. And often you're kind of delayed in your social skills at being kids and being silly. You often lack years of your childhood. You kind of have these stunted years where when you do join back in a friend group, hopefully, that you kind of don't understand the basic interplay of peer relations. And so your social skills with other people of your age are often very delayed.
It's his birthday. He's so sad, and I don't want to deal with him. Can I write a check?
And that's the other piece, is that there's no empathy. Like, he doesn't care that he doesn't have any friends and that he's sad. He just doesn't want to have to deal with someone sad because now he has to deal with him. His father sees everything that Stolas is doing as how it's going to affect him instead of having any empathy for the other person. We'll be going into sociopaths also because there are so many different parenting issues with the people in Helluva Boss. So if this video does well, hopefully it will, we'll go into that also. But there's definitely a difference. There's similar traits in that it's all about the other person, but narcissists can feel empathy about something that they care about or things that deal with them. It's more that they've gone through injury and hurt and trauma that's made them have to deal with things only how it relates to themselves, and they have a very fragile ego. So it's often that we believe that narcissistic traits are caused by injury and trauma from early childhood versus sociopaths where we believe it's actually a neurodivergent brain, call it like an injury, but something that isn't working the same in the brain. They just don't have the same empathic parts. They don't have the connections to empathy, where everything that they do is more about what they can get out of it. For narcissists, it's similar in its look, but the cause of that is different. And people that have narcissistic traits, can they get better? Yes, but it's really difficult because you have to go through that narcissistic injury of feeling like you're not good enough if you don't control things, that people won't just leave you.
How much you got in your pocket?
A wadded up 5 and a slim fit condom.
Yeah, that's plenty.
And then also, like, this should probably be his own video, but you can see how Blitz also has a parenting figure that doesn't really care about him. The only thing that he cares about is how much he is worth to the show. Now, when we're dealing with people that are living in poverty, it's really easy for people when they're doing very well to sit in judgment of what other people have to do for their parenting. But I have to say it really hurt me, though, to see how little he cared and how little value he had for his own son. And you can see how this would cause Blitz also a whole bunch of different issues.
Boy, I got a job for you. You are gonna spend the day with one of the Goetia princes.
You see that hold that Blitzo's father, and I call him Blitzo because now he calls himself Blitzo, but later it's not. Everyone, I'm just going to wait for all of the comments to be like, the O is silent. But you see the way that he grabs him by the hand and kind of brings him somewhere else, like he's property or a thing to be owned, not something to be cared about. Often those unconscious interactions or the body language that we have with people says a lot more than the words that we say to someone else.
Ew, why?
Because money! Now listen carefully. I want you to steal as much from those rich as you possibly can.
But if I get caught?
Don't you want your family to be able to buy a bigger tent?
And you can hear that, like, Blitzo's really worried about what could happen to him, yet his father doesn't have that. He's kind of there to serve a purpose, to be able to help him instead of the care for who he is or what could happen to him if he gets caught. There isn't even a discussion about that. And so it goes back to our feelings of our value. Our self-esteem is really strongly linked to the value that other people have given to us when we're really young. If we felt loved, cared about, validated, worthwhile, given a space that we matter, we end up imparting that into ourselves, that we matter, we have value. When we're not, when we're used just as a tool to serve others, we also learn that our job in life is to serve as a tool instead of to be valuable just because we are.
Better food? Don't you want to be able to help me and your mama out?
Of course I want to help Mama.
And then those manipulation tactics, right? To be able to use guilt, emotional guilt. Often that's a tool that people use, that if you don't do this, you don't love me, you don't care. And so you feel like you're always having to prove your love to someone else. This isn't unconditional. Everything comes with strings. Even when it seems like something is out of the goodness of someone else's heart, there's always something attached to it, or it's going to come up later. Look at what I did for you. Why haven't you done this for me?
I'm scared, Dad.
There are scarier things, aren't there, son?
But... Yes, Papa.
Like, I really feel for these kids that are stuck in these two situations. One dealing with poverty, one dealing with having the richness. Money, it does matter. It makes a difference being able to eat, but that feeling of being alone, of being neglected, is a universal feeling when our parents aren't there or aren't cued in, or that we don't matter to them. And it's one of those hurts that hurts us so deeply because it goes to the core of who we are as people and our inner value, and it can affect us no matter what happens later in life. We're still kind of carrying around that wound as a backpack of what is my value to people, and would I be tossed away if A, B, or C happens? And you see that little bit of opposition from Blitzo, that he pulls his arm back. I'm done with this. I'm doing what you want from me, but don't hold me like this anymore. Those beginnings of him standing up for himself, and that he has the strength to be able to push against the grains of what society tells him. And that can be a huge strength. A lot of people that have oppositional traits are often looked at as, oh, this was horrible, they're a bad student. But those are actually some of those leadership traits of being able to go against the grain, to do something for yourself, even if society tells you something else. So good on Blitzo.
Here is your new friend, my son. Happy birthday.
A friend? friend?
I guess. Hi, I'm Blitzo.
I'm Stolas. It's nice. Ouch.
Don't borrow that one.
For people that have narcissistic traits, hierarchy and the way that other people look at you means a lot. So everything they're doing is to ingratiate others to them. For Stolas' father, Stolas is an extension of him, and that's why he takes such offense to him bowing to someone else, that he should always be looked at as better than, because Stolas is this extension. So for him to bow, that means that he's not feeling as elite himself.
He bows to us, idiot.
Oh, right. Sorry, Father.
I'm so good at daddying.
And that other piece to it, of him giving himself a compliment, is a common thing that narcissistic parents do. They often say, I'm perfect, I'm great, look at how wonderful I am, I make no mistakes, especially after them doing something wrong. That you're getting all of these mixed messages of what is it like to be a good parent. And Stolas feels like he's the one that made a mistake, that even when someone else does something wrong, it's your fault. And often a narcissistic parent will actually make them feel like it's their fault for the things that they do wrong. And those kind of mixed messages can cause a lot of dysfunction and a lot of defense mechanisms that can often be really maladaptive.
This is my book on the difference between frogs and toads. There's a lot of differences. And this is my book on plants and herbs. Did you know plants can hear you?
Plants are boring.
That's the thing, is that for Stolas, this is his entire life. So I feel so sad that you can tell that he's trying to be friendly. It's so sad that he has to have a friend to be paid for, because he's been so alone. He doesn't really know how to interact with other kids. And so that often causes a secondary exclusion, that even when they're around other children, they act differently. And kids are kind of cruel. They have no filter. They're just going to say how they feel to it. And so that this is boring, I don't like this. And often children then become excluded again, even when they're trying to, because they're often lacking in those skills of how to play, what can they do, what they shouldn't do. And so socialization of children at a really young age is very important, to learn all those cultural unconscious norms of what do we do.
This is all boring stuff.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've never had a friend to share my books with.
And that apologizing all the time, that feeling like everything that happens wrong is their fault, also often happens.
Let's play treasure hunt. And we go around the house collecting all the nicest things.
Well, that's an odd game. Well, if it's what you want to play,
Let's do it.
So you can hear, you know that Stolas feels like this is not the right thing to do, but because he doesn't really know the rules of play and he's so excited just to have a friend, he's going to say yes to things, even though inside he feels that this might not be right. And so what ends up happening is that it's much more easy to be manipulated or say yes to other people, even in later relationships, even though you feel it's wrong, because you're just so happy to have anyone there. Even if you're being mistreated, manipulated, or used, you're going to go along with it. And so that can be really dangerous for later relationships, where you end up being an over caretaker and not dealing with your own emotions. And that often happens to Stolas. In order to save yourself from your own personal hell, or create it, get all the knowledge that you need with today's sponsor, Brilliant.org. Learn a new skill, get prepared for whatever life or death has to throw at you. Learn, enjoy, enhance with Brilliant's ever-growing set of new courses. Brilliant makes college-level courses, so you're getting really advanced knowledge, so you can be smart as a whip, but each course is also designed specifically for high-velocity learning. That's to learn as quickly as possible without making it stressful or difficult. And the way that Brilliant does this is to make learning like a game. It makes learning fun, so you get to learn in these bite-sized pieces, so it never gets boring, and you can learn in an engaging manner, and that way it actually sticks better. You remember more easily, more effectively. And Brilliant has thousands of different lessons, from foundational, advanced math, AI, data science, neural networks, and many more. And what I love to do is to pick something that I have a deficit in. So I end up making the amount of knowledge that I have more wide, more varied. I've done the courses on algebra, logic, geometry, and I found all of them really engaging, which are in visuals and animated, which is exactly how I learn. I don't do really that well when someone's just prattling on to me or I'm just reading. I need to engage with my learning. And so my learning happens without me even having to work at it. That's the best way to learn. When I practice a skill, I like to start with just 15 minutes a day. Just challenge yourself, learn something new, and construct those critical thinking skills or mathematics or logic in this interactive way. But you can't tell me that you don't have 15 minutes a day to help make your brain stronger. And if you're worried, don't worry. It's free for just 30 days. Just try it out. Visit brilliant.org/Georgia Dow or click on the link in the description. You can also get 20% off of Brilliant's annual premium subscription by clicking on the link below. So just click on the screen and head on over to brilliant.org/Georgia Dow. Clicking on that button really does help out this channel. So thank you to Brilliant and thank you to you. Hopefully I'll see you in the next video. So this is a little bit of some of the effects of being raised by a narcissist for Stolas. You can let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below.